let's talk about football. Football, where obviously your Dallas Cowboys play in the National Football League, and the Players Association of the National Football League, NFLPA, has done a fun thing. They started last year, and I don't know that anybody knew this was coming, but out of nowhere, they had like a player team report card. And so they had various players throughout the league. I think ultimately 1,300 players or thereabouts voted on and gave their feedback on these teams and how they were treated and how they felt these teams stacked up. And ultimately, the NFLPA put together a report card for all 32 teams, ranking them based on various things involved. Let me see if I can get you some of the things.
Categories.
The categories, that's right. Some of the categories that are involved here: treatment of facilities, food and cafeteria, nutritionist, dietitian, locker room, training staff, weight room, strength coaches, travel or team travel, head coach, and owner. All these different areas have been voted upon, and for the second straight year, the NFL put out these report cards. And ultimately, when it came down to like the raw rankings of it all, the Miami Dolphins come out on top as the highest rated football team, followed after by the Minnesota Vikings. Same two teams as last season. So those two teams are viewed as, I guess, from the player perspective, the best teams.
The best place to work.
In a way, yeah. Now, of the 32 teams, where do you believe your Dallas Cowboys rank, Chris Arnold?
I believe last year they were number 4, and I already know the answer because they've got the biggest slip.
Yeah. They rank 12th.
Yep.
Of all 32 teams. So
they fell out of the top 10, everybody.
Well, I'm sure that there's a lot of Cowboys fans that'll say, well, that's not surprising, all things considered. But with that being the case, Cowboys finished 12th in the rankings. Apparently, there are a few areas where the team clearly shines. Facilities.
Yep.
And that's to be, I mean, look, the star, we know that it's world. Exactly. Players also gave high marks to the locker room, the weight room, and head coach Mike McCarthy gets high ratings.
Good cop.
Yeah, and I mean, you could easily view him as a player's coach.
Yep.
So that's not to be. That's not
why you have to bring in a Zim. That's why Zimmer. And that's why Zimmer's here.
A lot of people feel that, absolutely.
And again, they also liked Dan Quinn last year too.
For sure. I think Mike McCarthy, players coach, also just because he focused a lot on making sure dudes were healthy and those types of things, and like the schedule was not too taxing. But okay, the negatives. Supposedly the major issues centered around the training room.
The trainers, they were saying there were not enough trainers.
Yeah, players feel like they're understaffed in the department, and it's difficult to get the necessary preparation and treatment so that they can perform their best.
And that doesn't make any sense. First of all, they love the trainers. They love Jim Maurer, and they love Brett, and I can't remember Brett's last name right now, but Brett's been there forever. But they don't have enough of them. In other words, as great as that training room is, I mean, the facility is state of the art. Jared, how the hell you don't have more trainers?
I don't know. I imagine that this maybe this ends up being a catalyst for adding the more trainers. Only 62% of players feel like they get an adequate amount of one-on-one treatment time, which ranks 30th, which is third worst in the NFL. Other issue that was mentioned was players feel the training room lacks basic equipment that you could expect to be standard.
That is insane for that facility, Jerry. Come on now.
That is something I would not.
You cannot take that. Now here's what's so crazy: they're number 30. The number 31 team on that particular category is the Kansas City Chiefs. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs were 31st overall as a team. I found that to be quite fascinating. They were graded as the second lowest team outside of the Washington Commandos. Have not been able to completely turn that thing around just yet. But that violates our kind of thought collective knowledge on this, where it's like, yo, Kansas City's a good team, but it seems like in a lot of respects, and I can get into like the specifics of them, they're not ranked highly. I mentioned training staff, training room, they're ranked low on
31st.
Team travel is oddly 22nd. They're ranked 22nd. And they got a C-.
They don't like that
in that.
And plane.
NFL
teams don't have their own planes. For those who are wondering, NBA teams do, but they do. What they do is they'll work a deal with certain airlines. Like I think the Cowboys still travel with American Airlines, and they'll get the plane, they'll get it nice, but it's not like an NBA team,
a private situation like that. Get this. Ownership ranked a B, good for 19th.
Oh no, not the Hunts. The Clay Hunt.
No. This is your Dallas Cowboys I'm still on.
Oh, back to the Cowboys? What happened?
Yes, I've been talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, travel?
Yeah, with team travel, they gave it a C-.
Okay.
And you are somebody who is familiar with that team travel.
I've been on that charter. I wrote that charter up for 20 years. And it's again, this is what I'm gonna tell you. There's nothing else like it. It's absolutely amazing. But here's what I'm thinking. And I was thinking about this before we did this segment, Reg. I've seen the report and all that. I'm like, I've mentioned over and over again, there's a situation of affluenza up there with those players, right? They're spoiled rotten. They're rich. They don't know that. I think because the star itself is so nice, they think every single thing has to be way A+. Follow me? Wait a minute. There's a piece of paper on the ground. This place sucks. What? So in a way, they've got the same travel, and you're not in the airport proper. You got its own little hangar area. You got your own parking that's guarded. I'm like, what are you complaining about? Spoiled rich kids?
Well, maybe that's a portion of it, but yeah, oddly enough, the Cowboys in really kind of the middle of the pack when it comes to the report card.
It's surprising.
It is surprising. I think that's fair. But what was more surprising, you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They are literally in the double digits. They're in the bottom half in every category except, can you guess the category in which they are not?
What are the categories?
Treatment of facilities, food, nutritionists, locker room, training staff, weight room, strength coaches, team travel, head coach, ownership.
I can't even guess.
Head coach.
Yeah, they love Andy Reid.
A+.
There you go.
Literally the highest ranked head coach.
You know one of the things he does? I found out in that quarterbacks documentary that they did, that Peyton Manning did on Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins
and Marcus Mariota.
I found out that Andy Reid allows them to create trick plays and then do it in the game.
In
other words, the players come up with the plays, not just the assistant coaches or Andy Reid. They would come up with the trick plays, and they would work on them in practice. And then if Andy liked them, he'd let them do it in the game. And that, talk about having fun and ownership or loving your coach.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are some of the things that have 1,700 players thereabouts participated, which is an uptick of 400 more players than previously had. And so there's a lot of insight to be had from, this NFLPA. And of course, like, it's not perfect, right? Like, as you mentioned, there's possibilities of biases seeping in. But, I mean, yeah, it is interesting the way that all came together. The Chargers, oddly enough, in one particular area, got an F, which is food and cafeteria. And they also talked about the family room at the stadium at one point.
Now that you got to take care of the family.
Apparently, they provide daycare, but it's not on site, and players have to pay.
This is in LA, the Chargers.
They charge, as they are the Chargers, $75 for their first child, and then $50 for each additional child per family. And look, childcare in our country is wildly expensive, right? And so
you would think
that compares nicely to just general childcare. The problem is it compares very poorly to the rest of the league, where most other teams take care of their players' kids for free.
And on that same tip, in the food department, how come the Cincinnati Bengals are ranked way low, if not last?
Well, that didn't surprise me at all. You want to know why?
We talked to Will. But here's what was surprising.
It's an F-. I didn't know that you gave out F-. I thought we all just figured once you got an F, you failed.
It must have been down in the 20s.
Yeah, the Bengals, they were. In fact, you know what? Let me go ahead and click on that one and see exactly why they gave them F-.
They weren't giving them lunch every day.
They have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
They only give it to them free on Wednesdays. It's crazy.
Which is wild. That is a wild.
This is a professional football team. This ain't high school.
Especially when you talk about like the nutrition of it, right? Like what you usually want.
You want them to win. You want to make sure the nutrition is number one.
Right, and so yeah, there's a lot of different things that were fascinating throughout case. The Arizona Cardinals apparently got an uptick because they stopped charging players for meals. And then they changed the floor and the equipment in the weight room. And so you see the ways in which this PA survey apparently is helping them, identify and helping teams maybe get on their horses about fixing some things. The Bengals were criticized last year for not providing 3 meals a day, made a slight change, as you mentioned, offering meals for free on Wednesdays. I imagine that might need an uptick as well.
Let me tell you something.
They're making billions of dollars.
Thank you. That's my point. I'm like, wait a minute. We're not talking about colleges. We're not talking about small schools. We're not talking about high schools. We're not talking about different
college,
parts
they
of town.
give you 3 square, buddy.
We're not talking about different parts of town. We're talking about the NFL, where every team is worth billions. Every owner is a billionaire. You're talking about guys who, it's the number one sport in America. You got the TV deals is flush. You're printing money. The ratings are through the roof. The stadiums are sold out. And you're telling me some of these teams don't take care of their product and have the nerve to say, well, we want to win the Super Bowl. Hell, you mean? You should be doing everything you can.
From the 817, they're millionaires. Why can't they be normal and pay for their own damn food and childcare? They're billionaires. Why can't they take care of their employees?
Thank you.
That's another.
That's
way
the other answer. If the millionaire players are spending, the billionaire owners are making even more than that, and they're the ones that claim they want a title. Sound like everybody's comfortable.